Continental Fireworks Company was a aerial display rocket manufacturing company just outside of Pisgah, Illinois, 6 miles east of Jacksonville. They made large aerial bombs, aerial rockets. They did not manufacture anything for the common person. This was all to be done by people on display for the 4th of July or other celebrations. They were job opportunities here in Jacksonville, a lot of jobs from what I understand, and they had a season where they would start their manufacture and it would end. It was accepted. It was very accepted by the city of Jacksonville. Like I said, up through 1971, they were good opportunities for people on one side of it. That there were no safety concerns whatsoever. From, again, articles that I've read, people I've spoken to over the last 10 years have said that there were no like electrical outlets. It was just a box with some wires coming into it, not necessarily taped and fixed properly. Propane tanks that were just screwed to the wall and lines running. I mean, nothing installed professionally. They were chicken coops. It tells that very plainly in one of the other articles about the factory, that they were just chicken coops basically. You can see one of the photos of a woman that's working, and it's about a 10, 12 foot long building, and there's gunpowder, aerial bombs. You can see how big they are in front of her, 3 or 4 inches around, all over the place. So safety was not a concern of theirs at all. At approximately 1 o'clock in the afternoon, according to reports, Pop Shallow was angry because people hadn't returned from lunch, specifically one of his grandsons that worked there. He was spiking fuses, is what is in the reports about it. Unfortunately, he created a spark and created a fire, leveled the entire facility basically. There were 11 or 12 buildings. I have drawings that are very specific, so I maybe should be careful with the number, but it was all the buildings in this gigantic V, from the blast point where building A was marked on the drawings all the way out, a huge swath. It was a massive explosion. There was unexploded, over 7,000 pounds of black powder. And if you look at the pictures and look at the casks that are under the tables, I'm going to guess that each of those are 50-pound casks, maybe 25. But the point being, there's a lot of them. There's a lot just stacked under the tables. And of course, it's a manufacturing plant. But we had talked about safety earlier. Everything out there was devastated. They had state fire marshal here. They had civil defense here. Illinois State Police were here. They had a Dunn Laboratories here to investigate things. There was the Waverly Fire Department, the Jacksonville Fire Department, and the Franklin Fire Department that were all three involved with it. There's reports in the newspaper that they had to go back the next day and scout through the woods that surrounded the area for a couple miles to put out small fires and to put out smoldering areas where the aerial bombs had gone completely haywire. I believe on that day in particular, 8 employees working there all together, some of them family, some of them outsiders. My dad, Richard Morris, being one of them, he was in the building with Dominic Schaller, Pops, what everyone called him. My dad had no opportunity to get out of the initial anything. The biggest thing with my family and the effect that it had was, first off, we were very close. My family, there were 8 of us. I have 5 older siblings and 2 younger. My dad would come home from work and he would scoop me and my 2 little brothers up and he would just rub his whiskers everywhere. And it was always, almost every day, something like that. My dad was affectionate. My mom, they'd been married 25 years. We were the good old American families, but I remember my mom being truly, truly upset, and crying all the time because I didn't know it then. But I understand now with my wife, it was her mate, her everything. My mom sat across the table and listened to these men tell her, we're gonna take care of you. We're gonna get this going. And then come September 1973, when this commission met, blame was given, the paperwork was put in people's hands. From that point on, I can show you the layers of cover-up. That's where the humiliation started from my mom and my family. I have letters that were sent to our local sheriff's office from a director of the commission, and that commission directly found, first off, the state fire marshal for never inspecting them and never having a hard file. There was no file whatsoever on this company. If they'd have made their inspections, the company would have never been there. The problem with that is the February 5th, 1971 death of another young man. How can you hold them accountable for a May 1971 event if there was another one in February? My answer to that, it was never told to this commission. No one was told anything. The commission directly points out who is at fault. The tragedy, the devastation would have never happened if these people would have made their inspections. After this commission met and the findings were settled, there was a person paid, and that person was paid for a car. The son-in-law of the original owner purchased the company, waited until this commission met, and then paid and accepted responsibility for the explosion or whatever in that paperwork. He said, yes, I may have made your car get damaged somehow, or the company did. I'm gonna give you $1,200 for your car. How does that work? When you can tell me that someone, after these findings are brought out, how do you get to sue someone for a car, but my mom can't sue for, and it's not about the money, it's about the moral aspect of all of this. You know, the fire chief didn't flip the switch. I want that truth to be told. I want people to read that and go, what the, what? He took the phone call from a farmer out there, hung it up and walked away. And he told this to the commission, and no one in authority, nobody, picked him up by the back of the shirt like you would a 5-year-old child and said, what were you thinking? They knew before my dad's death. Not the day it happened. They knew before it happened. It should have never been there. The responsibility level lies on the state fire marshal, the Illinois Mines and Minerals, and the investigative part of the Illinois State Police, because I have that young man's accident report and they were here. They were here for his accident. They cannot say, and I'm talking now about the Illinois State Police, we didn't know what happened. I have their names on that paper. They were here. Nothing was turned in. I just want the people, you know, in all of this, there are people who should have been held responsible. And since they can't be held responsible, then the story needs to be told. You know, it needs to be told. My mother deserves that. My father deserves that. Because it was wrong. Way wrong.